A month after the invasion of Ukraine, and daily life in Russia has changed drastically. No longer confined within Ukraine's borders, the war is starting to have an effect on a global scale as sanctions come into effect. But while the West suffers price hikes on everyday necessities like food, fuel and energy, the very face of Russia's economy is changing. And while Western sanctions attempt to hit the richest Russians where it hurts, the poorest are invariably bearing the brunt. Although supermarkets remain, prices are skyrocketing. In the first week of the invasion, consumer prices jumped by 2.2%, with food among the biggest rises. Some chains have restricted the sale of staples amid reports of hoarding.
Очень сильно поднялись цены на питание. У моих знакомых они там питаются смесью Нэнни, на 1500 цена поднялась. Подгузники у нас, допустим, мы пользовались 980 рублей, обычно стоила упаковка, нам ее хватает на месяц, вот так примерно. Вот. Сейчас уже 1700.
Major international brands have turned their back on the Russian market in response to the war. Companies like IKEA, Nike and H&M have all stopped selling their products in the country. The withdrawal of tech companies like Apple saw the price of smartphones and televisions jump by 10%. As one of the first Western firms to open in the Soviet Union 30 years ago, the symbolism of McDonald's closing its 847 restaurants has not been lost on Russians. Within hours of the announcement, thousands of adverts appeared from Russians reselling food from its restaurants at up to 10 times the usual price. In addition, crucial international couriers such as DHL, UPS and FedEx have suspended business relations with Russia. Although sales of medicines are not subject to sanctions, the departure of major shipping companies could have a devastating effect on their supply. The removal of Russian banks from the SWIFT international payment system and the decision of Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Apple and Google Pay to limit their services in Russia tightened the financial noose on the country. The exchange of funds between citizens and businesses became increasingly difficult, and the value of the ruble plummeted. The Russian central bank said that the total kept in personal savings accounts by Russians fell by 1.2 trillion rubles as desperate citizens queued at ATMs amid fears of economic collapse. Meanwhile, social media platforms such as Twitter and Facebook's limited presence is forcing young people to use virtual proxy networks to reach the outside world. TikToker Natasha from Russia is just one example of how citizens are choosing to speak out against the war and its effects despite the risks involved.
There are many shops in Russia that are saying that they are closing because of self-sanctioning, so let's go and see. This is the biggest mall in St. Petersburg and the most famous one.
Indeed, it's one of the few non-state-funded forms of entertainment left to Russians after sports organizations like basketball's EuroLeague and football's FIFA and UEFA imposed boycotts. Disney, Warner, Sony and Netflix are among the film distribution and streaming services that have been suspended. The instability has forced the Kremlin to implement new economic aid measures, which saw the ruble rally from its all-time low. But while the conflict carries on in Ukraine, Moscow will find it increasingly difficult to stay afloat. And as the Russian economy threatens to shrink by as much as 8%, it will be coming out of the pockets of those who can least afford it.